Welcome to Two Chicks and a Horror Flick, a weekly horror movie review podcast. I'm Tawny Ray.
And I'm Felicia Connor. Subscribe to get new episodes every Wednesday. We dive into trivia, drink a little whiskey, and of course, give our no BS opinions.
Join our Discord server or message us on social media to talk all things scary.
And if you like the show, consider supporting us on Patreon.
You can find all these links on our website, twochicksandahorrorflick.com. Thanks for listening.
Now let's get scared. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We missed you hardcore. That spring break, I legit spring braked. Because before, we post a lot, so Tawny's going to be mad. Not spring break like Cancun level, but took a spring break and didn't post anything. So I'm sorry, Tawny. But we are back and we missed you all. And this is a really special episode. So today we're talking about The Lighthouse from 2019. And we have an awesome guest. So Tawny's friend, Justin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hey.
Welcome.
Glad to be here. This will be fun.
He said earlier, long-time listener, first time on a podcast
ever. So I'll try to do justice.
That'll be great.
Justin will do justice.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Tawny was going on and on and on about how amazing you're going to be on this podcast.
Oh no. No. Let's lower those expectations. Just knowing that I'm being recorded is kind of terrifying.
No.
Actually. So it's okay. I'll get through it with beverages.
Yes,
so.
Yes. Hopefully you'll forget as we go on and we start talking. I think that's what happens for most people.
Good.
So
yeah, I think that's what happens totally. I know when I'm on another podcast at first, I'm all, oh, and then once we get into it, it's like I forget.
Yeah, because you're just having a conversation. Yeah. Okay, so just to further introduce and brag on Justin a little bit. So we are friends, and we are now ex-coworkers. We were coworkers. Yes. And since I went and got a new job. And then Justin is an amazing editor and edited a movie that went to Sundance this year.
That's true. I did. I'm a big boy now.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. That is awesome.
It's probably the best thing I've ever worked on. So that was a good thing. The sad thing is I didn't get to actually go to Sundance because of the COVID and everything. Yeah. But it was awesome to get to be a part of it. And it might be in theaters near you sometime in the fall. I don't know when. The movie's called God's Country.
Oh, no. I was going to ask, but then you're being kind of elusive. So I was like,
no. I'm pretty sure they're going to keep that title. Yeah. It's God's Country. There's another movie called that, but this one is put out in 2021. So 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in 2022, right?
Yeah. I keep questioning it as well. What year it is. I've seen it twice. We saw it for the Sundance screening, and then Justin actually screened it in a theater here in town. And so got to watch it a second time in the theater, and it was really, really neat. It's a really great movie. Highly recommend. I don't know how people can watch it. Do you know, Justin?
It was sold, and so it's supposed to have some theatrical distribution through IFC, I believe. And I don't know what that means for streaming, or I don't know any details. I'm just the editor, so they just kind of tell me what's happening.
Theoretically, you could find it somewhere, though.
Somewhere, eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not right now, but...
Not right now.
As of the recording of this episode.
Yeah. And in defense of me not knowing what year it came out, I started working on it in 2020. In March of 2020. And then COVID hit. And they had to shut down production. So halfway through the thing, they had to stop shooting, and then they finished it a year later. So it's an epic experience for me. Almost 2 years of editing. So
yeah,
that is very cool.
Super neat.
Anyway,
so Justin, I'm gonna just go ahead and give it away a little early here. Justin really loves this movie. Tell me if I'm misspeaking for you.
No. I really do love it.
Okay, so I was like, let's get Justin on this episode. But Justin, would you say that you're not generally a fan of horror movies in general?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't like horror movies. Not because they're like evil or bad or anything, but that I they are so effective with me that it's hard for me to watch them.
Yeah.
Like I'm not kidding. I have to sometimes, if I am watching it at home, I have to have the controller so I can either fast forward it or just turn it off because it gets to me. And yeah, so I mean, it's not. Some of my favorite movies are horror films, but I basically resist seeing horror films, especially if they have like, as Tawny may have mentioned at some point, I have a child in distress meter from
Yeah.
what was number one? Labyrinth.
I think
one
yeah.
Low end is Labyrinth. The high end is
it was Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep, where it's like just torture. Anyway, so if it's anything above a 5, I usually don't want to watch it. And so anyway.
What are some of your favorites? You mentioned you do have some favorites.
Yeah. So I tried to think about it in terms of like the movie that I enjoy watching that is a horror movie is I like Silence of the Lambs. So I have very boring and bland ones.
That's a good one.
But Silence of the Lambs, I just enjoy watching it. Probably the movie that most deeply immediately scared me was Exorcist. And I watched that in the theaters. They were doing like a re-screening of it or something. And I traveled abroad and I was living in England, and it was a midnight screening. I'd never seen it before, and I'm 22. And the movie got over, and I stepped out, and it's like fog and mist rolling in the middle of the night. And I was just like, I was terrified. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, because it's a scary movie.
Yeah.
And I was running, an adult running to my flat. It reminded me of when I was a child and I was in the forest and like I thought bats were after me. I remember just running terrified back to my flat and like laying in my bed going, okay, I'm safe now, you know? So, I mean, in terms of a horror movie I can enjoy, Sounds of the Lambs, I enjoy that a lot. But the ones that affect me most would be The Exorcist. I mean, I like a lot of other ones. I like The Thing. That also gave me nightmares. And what's really strange is like some of the George Romero, or like I think it was Dawn of the Dead. That one I had reoccurring nightmares, which is weird. So anyway, I would say I don't like the George Romero ones though. Really, I don't. But they did affect me in some weird way.
Would you consider, because I happen to know, being friends with Justin, that he loves Blue Velvet also.
Oh.
Would you consider that a horror movie?
Me?
I might. Yeah.
Me or Felicia? Yeah. Maybe. I guess it would. Yes, it is. It's pretty dark.
It's definitely got some elements.
Yeah, I mean,
at the very
I would
least.
say the second half of it is a nightmare. So I would definitely qualify the second half as feeling like that. It just seems like I guess it would be like a subgenre of horror, or like the Venn diagram of horror and some sort of surrealist filmmaking thing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, definitely it does have heavy horror in it. Yeah.
Well, they had a lot of talk about this movie. Is it really horror? And where to place it, what genre to place it in.
Yeah, true. Yeah, actually, when Tawny asked me, I was like, oh, because when I watched it in 2019, I was like, man, I love this movie, but I didn't really think of it as a horror, but it is. I
guess I don't know where else it would go, you know?
Yeah. It's like just the thing. I mean, I don't know. Do we just start talking about it?
Oh,
not
yet.
Let's not get into it yet.
Let's not. But I think it has to do with the humor, and we can talk about that. That makes it maybe not as bad.
Horror.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah, like because I was going back and forth and I can't wait till we talk about it and hear about the elements that make it really horror. I mean, because madness in general isn't horror, right? We've seen there's lots of dramas with alcoholism or madness or insanity or whatever that that aren't considered horror movies. So I'm curious. I'm not saying it's not horror. I'm just curious. Tawny wants to say something, but she's like,
I know. I feel like there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the drinks?
Let's do it.
I got scolded earlier because I did it way too early, but that's okay because it was an epic conversation about Justin. I loved it.
Yeah, I needed the people to know about Justin. The last thing I'll say about Justin, I'm talking for you, Justin.
Spill it, girl.
Even though he might not be like horror fan, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, Justin, but one of his favorite things is violence in movies. So I feel like that's horror adjacent. Yes. And it's even if it's outside of horror, he loves violence and realistic violence. We talk about this all the time, like in
gore,
movies and stuff.
I do love gore. I walk out of most movies and I go, was the gore good? I care about that. And when it is, it definitely gets a 2-grade bump for me. And if it's bad, it's going to get a 2-grade drop. So I do like gore. Not that I love violence.
Yeah, sorry.
Put that out there. But
that was the wrong word.
Yeah.
I guess what I meant to say is like realistic violence in movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about our monkey punch or monkey pump.
Monkey pump. That's what we're drinking today.
Yeah.
Everybody. And it's going to be different. It's going to be different for each of us, but yeah.
But actually that matches. What are you drinking, Felicia?
This looks great. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do the boringest of everybody because I'm drinking Polar Cranberry Lime Seltzer water. Only because I woke up with a sore throat and I didn't want to not be able to talk at all at the end of the day.
Yeah. That sounds great, though.
But look, it is really yummy. And it's in this. I put it on the rocks, though.
Nice.
Okay. Nice. It looks classy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin, you go next. Yeah. What are you drinking?
I actually have 2 drinks. My monkey pump. I'm sorry. My monkey pump is
monkey bump.
I'll get it right. Is just key lime LaCroix with ice. So that's boring.
Okay.
But my cistern drink right here is Bailey's, Kahlua, milk, and like a dead seagull.
Oh, nice.
So I've got it all.
Yum.
That sounds really yummy. Yeah. I like that mixture. Have you ever had, minus the seagull, the Bailey's in coffee with whiskey? So an Irish coffee?
Yes, I do. This is the year I discovered that I really enjoy Bailey's with almost everything.
Oh, so, nice. Okay.
With and in everything. Mm-hmm. I told Felicia, I was like, I talked to Justin, we're thinking about drinks, like maybe a specific thing. I was like, he likes Bailey's. Felicia goes, just by itself? I was like, I think so. Just straight up.
I know. I was like, I like Bailey's too. I don't know. If I'm going to have enjoy the Bailey's.
Yeah. Like I feel like Tawny and a lot of the people that at my work, they like enjoy the taste of alcohol. And when I drank Bailey's, I was like, this is like a milkshake. This is not alcohol. I love it. So
Tawny, when she slacked me, she was like, okay, me and Justin were talking, let's drink what they're drinking in there, but not like the turpentine or anything. Let's drink what's in the bottles. What alcohol are they drinking? I'm like, gin. I'm not drinking gin. I'm not going to drink a glass of gin. And she's like, me neither. I'm like, oh God, thank God.
Yeah, not for me.
It's okay.
Tawny, what are you drinking?
So I've got a mixture of Tito's vodka, which is gluten-free, and some Zevia, which also happens to be clear. So that's what we all agreed to do, clear beverages so that it looks like monkey pump.
Yes.
Monkey's paw is like what you want to say.
I know, you want to say it. And we should toast.
Yes.
To theirs. Yes. And do you want me to say it?
Yes. Yes.
Should pale death with treble dread make the ocean caves our bed. God, who hears the surges roll, deign to save the suppliant soul.
Chink.
You have to add sound
Tawny, you have
there.
to. Oh, I thought she was going to take a sip. That was amazing. I got cold chills. I really felt like I was a part of something special there.
You know what? I
Me
actually
too.
practiced it with the should pale death, but I was like, that's too much.
Oh, you should have done it.
Actually,
It's
it's really bad. And like Felicia, this is the first time I've met you, so I thought I'll just keep it on the low end of Justin behavior.
No.
Yeah.
I like level 10, Justin.
Yeah. Bring it, Justin.
After 2 hours, we might, maybe not.
After all that Bailey's.
Yeah,
See?
true.
Right.
Oh, I love Bailey's. Yeah.
So, has anybody been anything? Has anybody been anything
Nope.
you've been watching, listening to,
No.
reading, anything like that you would like to share? Something of note.
Yeah, we got to do the catch up here
Yeah.
because it's been a couple weeks.
Yes, Justin. Right now we are doing the catch up.
Me?
We are doing the catch up.
Do I start, or I want one
It's
of you
open
to
to
go
all
first.
of us.
Let's
Okay.
have Tawny go first,
Hey,
please.
Yeah.
Okay, I go first.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, just on not watching and listening to, and we went to New Orleans, right, over our spring break. That was really fun. We did a bunch of touristy shit in New Orleans. Two things I want to mention. Number one, we did a walking voodoo tour, which was really interesting. And we found out, you might already know this, but one nugget that I felt like was super interesting that I wanted to mention is the actual place that voodoo dolls came from. I guess they were medical records. So you would have older slaves, boo, slavery, obviously, but
Boo.
you very bad, but you'd have them on, the plantation or the home, and people would go and see them to have medical stuff taken care of, but they couldn't read or write. And so they would create these dolls that looked like people. It was a medical record. And so they would make things on the dolls. Like if they were, having heart problems or something, they'd put, something on the heart or a pin in the heart. And so that's how they kept track of what was happening. And then at some point, I think, they discovered this. And of course, you look at the dolls and you say this is exactly what these people are experiencing in health-wise. So these people are doing bad stuff to these people, but it actually was just them keeping track of what was ailing these people and what they were doing to fix it. I thought that was really cool.
That is the shit right
cool.
there. I didn't know that. That is awesome.
Yeah, it was a neat
Wow.
tidbit. This was
super neat.
Yeah, it was a 2-hour walking tour that we did all about the history of voodoo and stuff. It was cool. And it was mixed with a lot of history there in New Orleans. Neat. Highly recommend if you ever go there to do one of those. But they have them all over. They're actually free, these walking tours. I'll put a link in the Discord or something.
Ooh, I want to do that one.
Did they talk about zombies at all? Because I also have visited New Orleans, and the story I heard about zombies is because New Orleans is really, I think it's at sea level.
Yeah.
And so in the old days, it would flood, and people, when they would bury people, newly buried people, the flood would unearth some of them, and then the water, they'd 7 days later, they would find the person they just buried 5 miles away, their body there. They're like, oh, he got out of his grave
and moved. Yeah.
And moved. That's one of the sources they believe zombies are tied to. That, but that myth is tied to that. Anyway,
that is so interesting. I used to go there often for work with a previous job because we had clients there, and I noticed that all of the burial above ground everywhere. And I did a tour, but it was haunted tour. Your voodoo tour. I want to do that real bad.
Yeah, it was neat. We did one of those too, a walking ghost tour, and we had drinks along the way. It was fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what we did. It was a walking ghost tour, and we stopped for drinks.
Cool. Yeah, that was fun. I got pretty fucked up. It was serious. They pour them heavy down there. But I tried some absinthe. Not for me. Don't like it. Tastes like black licorice.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But alcohol and black licorice, or just black licorice?
In general. The flavor of black licorice makes me want to vomit. It's so gross.
Okay. You're not going to like ouzo because that's the same, just so you know. Black licorice. Ugh.
I do like that flavor.
Oh, then there's 2 liquors that you may want to jot down.
Yes.
Taking notes.
Absinthe and ouzo.
She'll say, why is absinthe on the grocery list?
That's weird.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that I just want to mention that's cool, I'll take a picture of this at some point. I need to really like unwrap it. But one of the coolest things that we did, this is going to sound weird, but because it's not a thing I did, but I bought this. People put up like their paintings around this place called, I think, Jackson Square. And so they sell them to people like walking around. And like, I wasn't super, we walked past a ton of this stuff and I just was like, oh, whatever, none of this is grabbing me. But then we stopped by this one guy's stuff and I was like, it really grabbed me because it's that like haunting black and white sort of like ethereal, I don't know if that's a good word for it, but it reminded me of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books, like the illustration style. And so we sat there and talked to this guy for a while and he talked about how he actually got this photo of a church that was in a swamp that was like the water level was up to the middle of the church. And he actually like went out there with a friend with a like large format camera and like got pictures of this place at night, like all through, the cycles of the day. But the one that I got is at night and there's like, you can see the moon above it and everything. It's so cool. So I'm really excited about that. I need to frame it and I want to put it up on this wall back here. But I'll put that guy's information in our Discord too, so you can follow him on Instagram if you want.
Very cool.
Very cool.
As far as watching, listening to, the 2 things I want to mention is Jade and I went to go see in theaters Everything Everywhere All the Time. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I keep fucking up the title.
Okay, maybe it isn't that. I said yeah, but I don't know. Let me look it up.
All the Time. I think I keep fucking up the end. Everything Everywhere.
I think all at once.
All at once. Thank you. Yes, this was incredible. Like, highly recommend. Everybody should go see this movie. It was so good. Have either of you seen it yet?
No.
Okay. I won't say anything more. There isn't much to say about it. You should just go in blind. Don't read, look up anything. Just go watch it. It's insane, but awesome. The other thing that I rewatched and I made Jade watch is Lars and the Real Girl. And we've talked about this multiple times on the podcast, but God, it's just like one of my favorite movies of all time. I cried through the whole thing. Jade loved it. He was like, because I was like, listen, I'm making an executive decision. Today feels like the day that we're going to watch Lars and the Real Girl. Like, we're just doing it and you have to listen to me. And he was like, I'm glad you did that. It was so good.
Such a good movie. I love that movie too.
Oh, so amazing.
That was,
anyway.
I was going to say at our work, Felicia, when Tawny, before she abandoned us, we all gave each other 10 movies to watch. And I did watch all of Tawny's. And now I'm going to ask Tawny, have you watched all of mine yet?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
But I did happen to see that Memories of Murder is now on Hulu. And
okay,
so
cool.
That's next on my list. Yeah.
Awesome.
So she's going to watch 1.
I'll do it.
There you go.
I'll watch 1 other 10. The thing is, I think I have a few movies on there. At least one David Lynch movie.
I watched Blue Velvet.
Okay, yeah, you did that. And then another one that I thought you're going to hate is Adaptation. Because it has Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
And you're not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he's really good in it.
I'm going to do it. I promise.
Okay. Anyway, I did like Lars and the Real Girl. Very good.
Oh, it's an amazing movie. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry. That's enough for me. I'm sure I did like and watched way more than that. I'm just going to forget and tell you later.
I was just thinking for a second. I had a lot of work to do, but finished up that project. So that was good. So I watched, the first thing that I have jotted down that I want to share with everybody is the Netflix series Heartstopper. My daughter introduced me to the graphic novels. She loved them. And so I've read 3 of them. The 4th one is coming out. And that graphic novel, she's like, Mom, please. I'm like, okay. I was so into it. I cried, my cheeks blushed, I laughed. It is beautiful, beautifully drawn, beautiful story. And they made a Netflix show on it. So my daughter came home from college. We have 4 more episodes to go, but it is really, really just absolutely lovely. And a really cool parenting moment. Cause most of the time I feel like, man, I'm failing at this parenting thing. No, I'm just kidding. I could be doing this way better. I had a really cool moment where, TT. So for Justin, I have my 2 older girls, and one is in college. She's 19. I have 17, and then TT is 8. And so TT and my oldest, we were watching Heartstopper, and TT says to me, Mom, I don't get what's going on. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, why can't these boys love each other? And I was like, oh, you're right, TT. I just loved that moment. She like really couldn't get it. So I tried to explain. I was like, some people based on whatever, they think, their beliefs, they don't think a girl and a girl and a boy can love each other, or you can love both. And she's like, oh, I don't get it. I don't know. And I'm like, and I love that, honey. I love that you don't get it. Just keep that going. But it's really, really sweet. I think that I always get nervous, and anyone who's listened regularly knows I get nervous when it comes from, if they make something from a book that I've really loved, in case they don't do it well. And this is really well done. Super cute. Yeah, that's
Heartstopper.
Heartstopper. Yeah.
Cool.
That's it for me.
Oh, no other updates or anything.
You said you didn't say. I mean, I don't even have to tell me where you went on your spring break.
I did.
It wasn't Daytona Beach. But...
It was right here in my house.
Oh, okay.
But I had a big project at work that was like full work hours. Finished that up, and then I was just at home. I meant more. I didn't show up on social media. Not for 2 Chicks and a Horror Flick either. Like usually we'll post stuff, even if it's not episodes, and I failed. I'm just looking at Tawny. She doesn't care.
I know. You're acting like I'm over here like
she's going to reprimand me after.
So, mad about it. No, I'm like, take the break.
Yeah, it was good. Really nice. We didn't do anything.
Yeah.
There is a Netflix, I believe it's Netflix show that's really interesting called 7 Days or... I'm sorry. I think that's what it's called. I'll post exactly what it's called, but I think that's what it is. But it takes a bunch of different things, and it's leading up to 7 days. So, for example, the one I watched last night that I love things about fashion and stuff. I just find it so interesting. Was the Chanel haute couture show, and it was all the 7 days leading up to that show, and everybody getting ready for it. And there was something else. Oh, the Derby, that big. The Kentucky Derby, the 7 days leading up to the Kentucky Derby. And it was super cool. I really liked it. But I mean, Heartstopper, that's. How about you, Justin?
I also have children. One is 9, one is 6. And they started watching a show called, I'm saying they watched it because then I watched it.
Yeah.
It was called Kipo and something of the Wonder Beast.
Wow, this is a complex title.
It is. It's just mainly known as Kipo. That's like, you see it titled that. So I don't remember the other, like, kind of super title. But, and I love it. It's fun. And it actually is, it is definitely a different generation of cartoon that compared to like, just as I don't get why these 2 boys don't get to, like, that show doesn't even, there isn't a conflict there. There's just like regular, like, teenage drama, but it's a cartoon. But my kids don't know that it's different than how other parts of the world behave in relation to that. But it's like a very positive show, and I like the characters, and this was something that I was like, oh, this is a good show, because when I was a child, my brother and I would watch cartoons, and we made note of a good cartoon is a cartoon where people can actually die in it, because then it's like the stakes are real. And when people die in Kipo, you're like, oh, I like that person, And so it's strange that like a show that's like for little kids would have that level of,
effect.
But it's really good. So
how do you spell that? Because I would love to watch this, because we also watch majority of the day, whatever she's watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Kipo, Kipo, and the Age of the Wonder Beasts.
Okay, I'm going to look that up and watch that with her.
Yeah, it definitely, I like one character named Scarlemagne. He's like anyway, you'll get to discover him.
Yeah.
But he's awesome.
Awesome.
He's very cool. Anyway, other things. The most recent book I read was Treasure Island, which is strange because I got invited to be on this podcast where someone sounds like a sea captain. I mean, in terms of, I've been watching The Winning Time. It's like the story of the Lakers on HBO. It's okay. Anyway, yeah.
Just all right. All right.
It's just all right. Yeah.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry. I have to mention it.
Okay. I also thought of a thing, so I'll do it after you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I have been listening to on Audible Greenlight. And I have to say, if you want to read the book, but if you have time to listen to it, same thing with Bryan Cranston's A Life in Parts. You're just listening to Bryan Cranston share stories with you. Matthew McConaughey is a master storyteller, and him, going through his book, I loved it. It is so, I'm not done with it, but I was like, oh my gosh. And then like crying and laughing. And it's so cool the way he shares the story. And so I had to make sure that you all knew that. And the show I was talking about is 7 Days Out. That's what it is. So I was close, but Greenlight on Audible.
Nice. My little tack on 2 shows that we've watched that we really fucking love. Severance on Apple TV. And now that we have Apple TV, I promised, because Paige and I had a thing. And I was like, if you watch 3 episodes of Severance, I'll watch 3 episodes of Ted Lasso, because I've really been resisting watching Ted Lasso. And I was so fucking wrong. It's so good. It's like amazingly good and funny and heartfelt. And I love it. The end.
I saw Jade posted in our Discord about Ted Lasso. I, because of them, also got Apple TV. So I am going to have to watch both of those shows.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed Ted Lasso. It was good.
It's it's really not about the football. It's about soccer, but football. And I thought the preview just didn't sell it. It didn't sell it in a way that it actually is, because it made it seem like it was way more about the sport than it is.
Oh,
anyway, it's good. I like it.
It does seem like it might be a hard show to advertise. And when I think of how would you encapsulate it without it being, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that.
Anyway, sorry.
Anyway.
You want to do this?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's get into it. If you forgot, we are talking about The Lighthouse from 2019. I watched it on Amazon Prime. Don't think you can watch it anywhere else right now. I'm not sure. Or as far as on streaming services. The director was Robert Eggers. And he also directed The Northman, which I personally cannot wait to watch, and The Witch, which is one of my favorite. We talked about that one, love it. The reported budget I found was $11 million, and the box office was $18.3 million. On Rotten Tomatoes, it was a 90%. On IMDb, it was a 7.4 out of 10. And on Letterboxd, it was 4.1 out of 5. I do have a little section here on awards, and it did win some awards. And I need to ask, so is it Cannes or Cannes Film Festival? I didn't know, Justin, since you're an editor, if you know.
I want to say Cannes.
Okay. Cannes.
I'm no, I wouldn't base it on me.
All right.
No.
Cannes Film Festival. It won a director prize. Sorry, that was like a long name. But the director prize. Independent Spirit Awards, Best Supporting Actor and Best Cinematography. London Film Festival. British Irish Actor of the Year was Robert Pattinson. San Diego Film Critics Society, Best Cinematography. And Satellite Awards and Seattle was Best Actor for Dafoe. So into the cast, we have William Pattinson, who was Ephraim Winslow, or Thomas Howard. William Dafoe was Thomas Wake. Valeria Karaman was the mermaid, and Logan Hawkes was the real Ephraim Winslow.
To go back to Robert Pattinson real quick.
Yeah.
Did you say he's an Irish actor?
It was a British-Irish actor of the year.
So is he
it's British? British-Irish. I thought he was British. I think he's British.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever like watched an interview. I just am curious about the accent. Like if he has an accent.
He does have an accent.
And I didn't think it was Irish though.
No, I'm pretty sure that he's so he's English. So he's an English actor.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And he does have an accent. That's all I got. Now it is 2 minutes with Tawny.
You'll have to. I wrote this and I haven't like read through it, so we're just winging it. Turn back now if you don't want this movie spoiled for you. Just do it. Yeah, this is a weird one. This movie, just don't or do. I don't care. Okay. Ephraim and Thomas are 2 lighthouse attendants stationed at a remote island lighthouse for a month until another crew comes to relieve them. Thomas has taken care of the lighthouse for a while, but Ephraim is new to this line of work. Thomas is hard on Ephraim, constantly nagging him about his duties and saying he's not doing them right. He never lets Ephraim into the lighthouse, even though they are supposed to swap out. Ephraim finds a statue of a mermaid in his mattress and begins to hallucinate logs floating in the sea and mermaids. Thomas tells him that his previous partner went crazy and died. One specific seagull has beef with Ephraim, and Thomas warns him not to harm the gulls because the story goes that sailors' souls live inside the birds and killing one is bad luck. I wrote in sailors, but maybe it was just like men at sea. I don't know if that's right. I don't know. I don't remember. You can guess what happens next. He kills a gull. The winds suddenly change, and this is super bad news because it's the day before they're scheduled to be relieved by the next crew. They drink that night to celebrate their last night on the island, but the next day the crew never shows up. And also, I should mention, they get like super drunk. This begins a downward spiral over an undetermined amount of time, with the 2 men going through all their food and liquor, fighting and having fun together. They then move on to drinking turpentine and honey to stay drunk. Ephraim confesses his name is actually Thomas Howard, and at his last job he neglected to stop an accident, killing his foreman. He then assumed his identity before coming here. But from here on out, I'm going to keep their names the same so that it's not confusing, because now we know both of their names are Thomas, but I'm going to keep calling him Ephraim. Thomas Wake, the older guy, chases down Ephraim and destroys the only boat on the island to prevent Ephraim from leaving him, but only moments later accuses Ephraim of destroying the boat. They get into another fight, and Ephraim hallucinates that Thomas is the mermaid and a sea-type monster. He almost kills him and drags him outside to bury him alive. Thomas survives and buries an axe into Ephraim's arm. He kills Thomas with the axe and goes straight up to the lighthouse to uncover its secrets. The lighthouse opens a door, and Ephraim looks into it laughing before falling down like all 180 steps. Sometime later, we see a naked Ephraim laying on the rocks with seagulls pecking at his exposed entrails. The end.
Nice.
Nice job. It's hard to say. This did happen, but maybe it didn't, and it's the entire movie. So
yeah. I just went with like
the basic outline. Yeah.
Yeah, because that could have gotten crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So even though we kind of already know, but you're our distinguished guest, Justin, tell us just, how did you feel about this movie?
I loved it. I know we wait to the end to give it a score, so I won't give my score. But I remember watching it, and at the end of it, I didn't want it to end. That's usually how I know I liked a movie. And it also made me want to talk about it and see what other people thought about it. And I have never went to a movie with one of my coworkers, Alex. I'd never been to a movie with him before. And I invited him on a whim. Hey, I'm going to this movie. Do you want to go? And he's sitting next to me. I mean, what the thing is that because you have probably seen the movie, you know that this is a story about two men unable to like express any sort of like intimacy in any. It was just a strange movie to like invite someone to. You've never been to a movie with like, hey, do you want to go watch this movie where these two guys almost kiss and then they fight? Yeah. Anyway, I thought that the things that I liked a lot about it are like, despite it having a very, I love the tone, I love the mood. That's through the music, sound design, the way it was shot. All of that was really good, but I also thought it had the right amount of humor for me. I a lot of horror films I can't stand because there's no humor in it, but this one definitely had some humor that I enjoyed and in some way related to. And then also I liked the characters. They were great performances, and I liked being around these horrible people. Kind of, they're not horrible, but like, I mean, Thomas Wake is pretty horrible, but he also, there's like a soft. You could see that he's very vulnerable when he, like, for example, when he destroys the boat, he yells out, "Don't leave me!"
Yeah.
Or what does he say? He says, I wrote it down because I thought that was funny. It's something like, "Don't leave me! You can't leave me alone!" I think that's what he said. And anyway, despite the mood and the tone, it's still, the humor resonated with me, and I just enjoyed being around. I liked being in this world. So, I mean, I loved it. Really, I did.
Beautifully said. Thank you.
And it had a great mystery. I mean, obviously, everyone walks out of there and goes, "What did I just watch?" And it had a great mystery to it.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you. Tawny.
Do you want me to go? I want you to go next.
Okay. She always does that to me. Okay. I liked it. I am not sure, and I'm hoping you both can bring it, or I don't know how Tawny feels about it. Maybe Justin can bring it together for me. I absolutely loved the way it was filmed. I thought it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous to watch. I loved the black and white. I loved just the isolation and the gritty and the low lighting. Loved that. Loved the acting. Thought it was phenomenal. I feel like I just didn't get it. Like, for example, my notes, this is literally what my notes say, and I wrote them here. I just took notes as I was going along, besides I love how it looks. Oh, it's so pretty. Lust, phallic symbols, eroticism, desire, homoeroticism, identity, madness, insanity, isolation, alcoholism, addiction, mythology, secrets eating away at you, self-harm, self-hate. So there's lots of things, but I guess I'm missing, like, what is it that you're trying to tell me? Or is it I'm just experiencing this movie? And I think for me, I'm always trying to grasp, like, I want that moment where I'm like, oh shit. So I thought at the end of it, I was like, maybe I don't know enough about mythology for it to come together, but I don't think that was the thing, because that wasn't the main thing. There was a lot of things that went into this movie, a lot of different ideas. And, you know, like there's a true story element, the mythology, the Edgar Allan Poe, psychoanalysis. There's a lot in it. And so I think that big piece of, like, I see all these different things, and I like the way you presented them to me, but what are you trying to say to me? Or am I just to look at this as a piece of art? And so I think there was a couple of times where I felt a little bit bored, but got right back into it. And I really wanted it to all come together for me. You know, I was like really excited waiting for it. And I put that as like, I just didn't understand it completely. And so anyways, I'm hoping you will help me bring that together. But I did like it. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous, and I liked the acting. I just don't know score level how much I liked it because of that feeling that I kind of left with.
I am in the same boat, and I'm just going to say, as of right now, I did not like it. Like, and I think this is like maybe just not for me, but I am hoping, and this is part of the reason why I tapped Justin in, because I was like, I did not like this experience. I mean, I knew that Justin loved this movie. And so the moment we chose it, like Felicia and I were talking about what we were going to do, I had a thought that was like, maybe Justin should be on for this. And then once I watched it, I had the thought a few times come back up. But then once I watched it and I was like, man, I felt the same way. I am not getting this. Like whatever is trying to be imparted here, I'm not picking it up. And I'm just like having a hard time. So I found myself kind of bored too. I actually had to watch this over 3 sittings. Like I started it, got bored, walked away, like watched it the next day, couldn't do it, walked away, came back, watched the last, hour and a half or whatever. And it wasn't like, I didn't hate it. There were moments that I thought were good. There were parts that I thought were good, but same thing. I was like, maybe, and I remember I tried really hard not to listen to Justin talk about this movie. And Justin did a very good job of trying to be very quiet about it, like when they watched it. But I think I remember you saying something about this movie being about masculinity in some way. And so I was like, I'm not reading that. I can see the themes, but I don't know, I don't know. I can't get a good read on it. So I am also kind of hoping for some research from your end, Felicia. I'm sure you did research too, Justin, but some perspective from you, Justin, to kind of put it together. Maybe I'll like it more. But in general, black and white movies, not for me. I feel like they're a little pretentious. Also, he went to the next level and decided, you know what, I'm going to do this in 4:3. Yeah. Also, to me, weird choice.
More narrow than 4:3. It was like 1
was it?
point. It was like 1.19.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Something weird like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the dialogue, y'all. I can't fucking understand what anybody's saying. So that's my overall.
Mm-hmm. I did have to do subtitles, and I did same. Also. I wondered while I was watching this, I couldn't find statistics on it. Does this speak to men? Does this resonate with men more? Like, is there something I'm missing because I'm not a man? And I was very curious about that. And people keep telling me, Felicia, you're going to love this because of the type of movies that I love. Yeah. And so that's why I keep I really want to.
And you're like, I'm not. Well, I just want to start off by saying, in a way, your experience with the movie is what it was. You didn't like it. That's fine. And you know what? A lot of movies that people love, or there's a lot of analysis worthy stuff in there. To me, I've watched lots of movies that people are like, oh man, this is so awesome. And if I didn't like it, I don't care. I don't have to think about it. I don't want to, but I did love this one enough to look at it. So I don't feel like my job would be to convince you, but I do feel like part of, I think what's happening, even I think Robert Eggers was asked hey, why didn't you show the audience what was in the Lighthouse? And he responded with something like, hold on, I wrote this down because I thought, oh yeah, this guy's a real stinker. He wrote, because if you saw it, the same fate would befall you. And I mean, that's obviously, he doesn't actually believe that. He doesn't have that power. But I think that might be part of what is something that fascinates me and is about the dynamic that both the Thomas Waite character and the Ephraim character, Winslow, is that they both are to their own destruction. They want this, I guess you could call it salvation or whatever it is. They want completion, and it destroys them both in a way to maintain it, or in some way. I think he might be hinting at that the Ahab nature of us to want to kill the sperm whale, that part of it. I don't know if that's actually 100%, but it doesn't actually matter. When I watched it, I was like, oh, these people are losing it for no real good reason. They're obsessing about this thing. But I think that is part of it, is that it's not supposed to be complete ever. I know that sounds like a cop-out, because there is still lots of analysis that does. I feel like he's created cycles that do have a completion, but they kind of pick up and continue on. So it doesn't have the same sort of final note to it that maybe a lot of people want in a movie. And in a way, that's the gnawing thing in my head with it, which I like. It makes me go, oh, my mind can work on this all the time. And in terms of it's about masculinity, or toxic masculinity, or in a way like a structural patriarchy that he's part of. Like, maybe in a way it's saying that everyone kind of is part of that. I would say he's saying that because it's not just that, like, the way that the work is set up is there's this guy who's in charge, and he has no risk. It's not even like, to do work is not masculine or feminine, right? If your job is to be a janitor in a building, that's not gender based. There's men and women janitors. But if you're cleaning in the house, there is an aspect of that. And it feels like they're somehow making it so Thomas is making him feel like he doesn't respect him, and he's for in every step of the way, he's making belittling him. And we can talk more maybe about there's something else that's kind of interesting about it, which is they both in the end are trying to do the same thing, because they're part of the same problem. Because once Ephraim gets the power, he doesn't turn into like some benevolent, like nice person. He's dragging a person around like a dog. So it's not like Ephraim is like without fault, and yet they're both like victims.
Yeah.
In a way. So I don't know if any of that helped or made it more clear, but I think that specifically the power dynamic that's there does seem to be like a very patriarchal feel, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah, there's more to say about it. One of the other things that I thought was interesting when I was watching it is when you find out that they're both named Tom.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, they're both named Thomas. And in the height of like the what's real and what's not, completely you just saw him destroy the boat, Thomas Wake, and then the next scene he's like, hey, Ephraim, you destroyed that boat.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, no, that didn't happen. But you, at the same time, you're like, oh, somehow it's almost like they're becoming the same person. Thomas Wake says, you're a drunk, you're abusing yourself. That's a term used for time with the mermaid.
Yeah.
You're drunk. He had like a list of all these things that he is, and he wrote down that in his book with glee. I got you with this. But Thomas Wake is doing the exact same things. He's drunk. Who knows what he's doing to that lantern up at the top.
I think we know.
I mean, we know. Yeah, I mean, they're both doing the exact same thing. They could be the same person almost. And the fact that in the script they refer to them as like old and young.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they're the same person. This is the young version of that person, and this is the old version of that young person. And they're just like, they both lie about who they are. They both are.
I like this.
Yeah, I mean, like all of these things, I think, added up to a very interesting mystery in terms of like, it isn't necessarily that I walked away going, I get it. This makes sense. All of this makes sense. I can answer all these questions. I didn't walk away with it that way. I just walked away with it more from the perspective of, I sometimes use this comparison because I'm an editor, so I work in this medium, and I like enjoy interesting. I think of it as like making movies is like a magic trick. And you're a magician, and I felt like this magician was doing things that were effective, and I wanted to know more about that. And even like this idea that I just said about like, oh, maybe they're the same person, or who, maybe there's some sort of cycle between them. Do you remember the shot with the where Thomas Wake's eyes become like light?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shot starts off with Ephraim coming out a door, and he comes, and you can tell he's like looking at the dead Ephraim Winslow, the one from the logging accident. He's like on the ground, and he gets closer. He reaches for him and puts his hand on the shoulder, and then he turns around, and it's actually, Thomas Howard, the new Ephraim Winslow. And then someone puts a hand on his shoulder at that same time, and he turns around, and so you see both of their faces. They're both Ephraim Winslow, the Thomas Howard version of it. And the person touching them, when you get to the wide shot, there's just two people now. And those two people are Thomas Wake and Ephraim Winslow, the Thomas Howard version.
Right.
It's hard to go say all this, but the point I'm getting at is within that little magic trick he just did, it created a little bit of a loop in my head that goes, oh, he's touching him, but the second he touched him, he became Wake. And some sort of like, I don't know if that was the actual film grammar intent, but it made me think that for a second, because the other person on the ground disappeared. It was just those two the whole time. Anyway, I don't want to keep saying stuff. You guys say stuff.
That was great. I mean,
also, I just want to say I am finished my Baileys, and my face is very flush.
Well, that was really, really, so this is the thing. Not that I want you to convince me, but I feel like there's pieces of the puzzle that I'm looking at that I'm missing. Yeah. And so I was hoping that you, and I feel like my brain is percolating, like as you're saying these different things, I'm remembering based off the research I did, because when I went in and did research, I was hoping to draw these connections between these different things, like that painting you just mentioned, right? Is a painting very clearly inspired by Sasha Schneider, and it was Hypnosis. So then I dived into Sasha and the painting of Hypnosis, which is the exact recreation. And the director says that's where he got that inspiration.
Wait, what are you talking about real quick?
I'm talking about the lights out of his eyes. Sorry. Okay. That whole thing that Justin just explained. And there's that beautiful moment where the light is shining out of his eyes down into it's Wake,
so that's like
right?
a painting.
That is a painting called Hypnosis, right? Yes, by Sasha Schneider. Thank you for getting that all. So many things are going through my brain. And so I researched that, and it was Sasha was just really interested in the power of suggestion and hypnosis, and the muscular figure of the hypnotist suggests an understanding of hypnosis as a power analogous to the physical face. And so like this, it's a whole thing about the physical body and hypnosis. And so I'm trying to, why did he pick this within everything that's going on? But then if you're talking about, I don't know, all of these people maybe being one, and we think about hypnosis, I feel like there may be something that's forming there. I can say an echo. The director was totally like, I don't know, you guys have fun with it, really, is just like Justin was saying. Yeah, because he was saying the script was there were many versions of the script, and they were too clear on what was going on. I would love to see one of those, because I could use some clarity. So they redid it because the goal was to make the audience go mad and become confused like Winslow. So the final script turned out being more confusing for the audience. And also when they ask him like, what do you can describe the movie? Just nothing good can happen when two men are trapped in a giant phallus. Like they're just really not giving anything away. Just and even on the sexuality, are they gay? Are they not? He goes, are they gay? No. Are they not gay? No. I don't know. It's just something for you to think about.
Yeah.
Invasive.
I mean, the thing is, like, even that opening toast that he did, that Thomas Wake did, it like, I was like looking up, what does this mean? And the basics, it's like it's like a version of these poems about people asking for God to like save them or help them in different circumstances. And the last one is that. And it's like, when I die and I'm at the bottom, save me, kind of. And he says that at the beginning of the movie. If you and Tawny were on a lighthouse together for 4 weeks and you didn't have to do anything but like do some manual labor, obviously that was crazy manual labor, but being together would not have been one of the problems.
Oh,
right?
No.
Exactly. So he's basically saying spending time with me is the equivalent of, you better ask God to help you get through this, because they can't handle themselves, and they can't handle other people. It's like they just know 4 weeks with me, my last guy went crazy, you're gonna go crazy, I might kill you.
Yeah, he even says later, he's like, well, we got to the end of it and I thought a couple times you were gonna kill me, like in my sleep or whatever. Like there was definitely they back that up later where he's like, I thought you were gonna do me in.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that when we're talking about like the toxic masculinity involved, it's like there's two parts of it. Everyone's probably experienced this where, the equivalent of doing a lot of work to bring a drum up to the top of the lighthouse, this 200-pound drum, and then the person who's like your supervisor or like a coworker who could be helpful goes, hey, why don't you take this little cup next time?
Yeah.
He didn't have enough respect to say, hey, don't do that. Let me help you and do this. Like that level of like power and knowledge, he's withholding information from Ephraim. And I mean, in a way, this does come down to some of the other like myths in the story that you're probably going to get into about Proteus and Prometheus, because Proteus is a known withholder of information. And and like in Greek myths, people would have to like hold him down and get the truth from him, but he doesn't want to give it up. And so that is like the dynamic, is that this guy has all the power and knowledge and he will not give it up.
Yeah.
And so in a way that is maybe tied to some of the aspects of the toxic masculinity aspect of it, maybe. I don't even know why I started talking about this, but it is now here.
With Proteus, I have him referred to here as a prophecy-telling ocean god who serves Poseidon. So he has the knowledge, and he has prophecies. And I didn't know that second piece of it with that people withholding. Withholding information.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, let me try helping unravel more that might help tie in some other things. Well, I mean, we should probably talk about some of the details too, in terms of like, I just mentioned how I was like, they're kind of like becoming the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some details that I feel like maybe when I have spent more time looking at it and thinking about it, I was like, oh, that's neat how they have made these connections that relate to some sort of theme of like some cyclical experience. One of them is there's a one-eyed gull, and the head that is pulled up out of the lobster pot has one eye.
I didn't catch that.
It has one eye pulled, like gone. And at some level, it almost feels like, well, now, there's like some sort of thing going on there where like people from the sea come to the island, they run into these birds. They kill the birds. The island then kills the people on the island. They become seagulls.
Birds, yeah.
Yeah, it like turns into like this sort of like a cyclical thing where they're forever. Everyone's just stuck in this horrible place. And in other details, Ephraim kills Thomas Wake with an axe, and he like comes back. He was a what do you call that? A logger, timberman.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like how people don't just die when they go crazy, as far as I know. So they don't explain how that head ended up in that basket, but an axe would definitely get rid of a head.
Yeah.
And so it seems like there's all these moments where things could be being connected that you're making, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get the full picture. That he's constantly, it feels like he's created these circles and then taken one part,
like leak out.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to go, what? Hold it. That was gonna connect to the no. Okay, it ends there. But then you find another one that matches. It's like a series of incomplete circles.
I really like this idea, and also like, because I think this is where, you're sort of connecting dots for me, at least in terms of like, this is an interesting concept in this movie, is this like cyclical nature of things. And I like the idea almost that they are like, because I love like a purgatory situation. It's like, are they in purgatory? Kind of, like no one's coming for them. They're done. And what's happened. That's kind of what I got from the light situation is like, this obviously feels like you're going into the light, which is death. And, I don't know then if him getting pecked at is hell.
Oh, if I can tell you this, because I'm so excited with that you said purgatory, because then that made something pop into my brain. As far as the mythology, because I wrote this stuff down, and I, again, was like, how does it fit? So you guys are helping me. So Wake is definitely Proteus, and then Winslow is Prometheus. And so after finally obtaining the light and the knowledge of what is in the light, Howard falls to his death down the stairs of the lighthouse, and his organs are plucked out by seagulls, invoking the myth of Prometheus, which in a nutshell, Prometheus steals fire for humans and gives it to humans, gives this knowledge of fire to the humans. He got super busted by the other gods, by Zeus. He got super busted by Zeus. And so then Prometheus was bound to a rock, and an eagle would come and eat his liver, but then his liver would regenerate. And then the eagle would come, and it was a cycle, like you're talking purgatory, of his liver regenerating, the eagle eating it. And that's his punishment. And then, Justin, if you know anything else, that was like my Cliff Notes version of Prometheus. But when you said purgatory, I got excited. I was like, oh, yeah.
No, that is the purgatory that he's in, because he's not dead. He's moving at the end. And the thing is, I was like, man, this is an interesting movie. And I think I've watched and read at least 10 things about it. There's some overlap in what people believe this is about. And but a lot of it isn't. And they all have their own sort of take on it in their own way. And I walked away going, all of that, it's not like a distraction, but it definitely engaged with people in different ways. Mm-hmm. And so I walked away from it filled with, I'm interested in this mystery. And I think those other people were too, and they found something in it. The only other thing I would say about the myths with like Proteus is because he is like, I think he can see the future, or he knows the future. He knows more than everyone else. He's like the most knowledgeable. And he's Poseidon's son, one of his two sons. And one of the, like, Thomas Wake, at some level, he is more than just a regular human, it feels, because he actually like predicts what's going to happen to Robert Pattinson. When he gets really mad about him not liking his cooking, he is quoted as saying, something let me see. I wrote it down here.
Yeah, this felt very...
Yeah.
I don't know, weird. Oracle-like.
Yes. And actually, he starts off that speech. He references his father, Poseidon, in the beginning of it. He says, "Bellow and bid our father, the sea king, rise up from the depths, full foul in his fury." So already you're like, oh, his father is Prometheus. Then later he wrote, he's talking at the guy who doesn't like the way he cooks lobster, at Ephraim, and he calls him a nothing for the harpies and the souls of dead sailors to peck and claw and feed upon. I mean, so he already knows what will happen to him, or at least he predicts it. And so he has, like, in terms of the myths being tied to, like, having their own sort of characters that and these characters don't exist together in any stories already. So he just put these two Greek myths together and created this new experience. And I mean, as Felicia said, like, he is really into Carl Jung and Freud, and there must be some, I haven't dug that deep into that stuff yet. I've just, because I'm not into Jung and Freud, at least I don't think I am. But it might make me look it up, really. I might be interested in it because of something like this, where, like, somehow they're connecting some Freudian or Jungian archetypes to these mythological characters. And then that probably has some sort of psychoanalysis end result that I'm unaware of. And I think, have you ever experienced a movie that you really love? And you're like, man, that was so awesome. I don't know what it was about, but I loved it. Mm-hmm. And then someone basically described the subtext of the entire movie to you and, like, broke it down, and you're kind of disappointed then. It kind of ruins it in a way. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but that has happened to me where I was
it has happened to me where I thought it was more, or like I was really thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, I like this. I like where it's going. And they broke it down and it was like something just really basic and not as deep as I thought. And that was a bummer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a way, there's, I liked one of the weirdest movies I ever saw. I was very young, and I saw the movie Full Metal Jacket while staying in a hotel room with my brother and my parents. We were traveling, and I remember I was young. And have you seen Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it is a very dark movie, not meant for kids. And I remember turning to my brother at one point, because I think someone, killed themselves in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking at my brother like, Andrew, I was going to say something to him. And he goes like this. Because my parents were sleeping next to me, because he wanted to watch this. And, like, it was like this other world had just been opened up to me. And probably is like the source of why I, like, started loving film, is like this thing happened and it was like another world. And then later I read someone's analysis that I've read a whole bunch of analyses on this before. None of them ever seemed to, like, fit the keyhole. This person, they figured it out. And afterwards I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. I loved the eternal mystery that this movie presented to me at first. And that movie it was built around Jungian archetypes and stuff like that, which is strange that I'm talking about that. And then this movie's also seemingly, maybe I should figure out what that's about then.
Maybe you should do some research.
Yeah.
No, I can't think of a specific example, but now that you've kind of gone through that, I think there have been situations where I have had somebody explain a thing, and it is sort of like, oh, you just completed that, and now it's like, okay, well,
it's dead.
Now I know. And so there's no longer a mystery there, but
I don't have a ton about that, so don't worry, I'm not going to destroy that mystery for you. You go research it and enjoy it.
No, but you know what? I think people want that because some people just want to understand the magic trick.
Yeah.
People want to know, even if they're not fellow magicians, you do want to know how they did that, and to your mind, because it's very powerful.
Eggers said about that he was very inspired by Freud, and his quote is, he hoped that it's a movie where both Jung and Freud would be furiously eating their popcorn. Just like ready to pull this thing apart and talk about it.
Yeah. I have a feeling he was successful. I feel like they'd be like, yep, they almost kissed. Let's talk about it now. Yeah.
I don't know I don't know a whole lot about Freud, just very probably as much as you both know. I know there's a lot about phallic symbols and sexuality, even like attraction between
Oedipus,
parents and all of that sort of thing. But that's basically
so who's the father and who's the mother?
Yeah.
And and then
weird.
Yeah, it is. It's a I mean, I don't want to, like, for me, the part where he stood up and did his hark, you guys were sounded like you weren't down with the dialogue or the way they were talking. That is 10 out of 10 my style. Like some of my favorite movies are people who just, it's very like Shakespearean kind of, and like over the top, but I loved that. It was because it was also kind of funny. And I just like that juxtaposition of this very serious curse being laid upon someone, like truly filled with anger, and like it was kind of vulnerable at times while he's giving it. He seemed almost sad. And then at the end, after this giant thing, it cuts to a guy on the ground. He's like, "Have it your way. I like your cooking."
Yeah.
Like those two things.
And he's shaking.
Yes, his hands like shaking. Yeah, he basically we're at his back. He could be crying. You know, he could have been crying instead of angry. Yeah.
I can say, I loved that too. And when he said that, all right. I like your cooking.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
This is something I have a note that I really liked. I really like about Eggers, because this was something when doing the research for The Witch, of how much care and thought and attention he does put into these different pieces, all the way down to the language they're using and everything like that. And I did notice Robert Pattinson's accent versus Defoe's, and I was wondering if maybe Pattinson just couldn't do that good of a job. But Robert Pattinson's accent is actually based on a very specific area of Maine farming dialect. And since he was a logger and he came from a different area, and then Defoe is jargon of Atlantic fishermen and sailors of the time. So Eggers was very precise about the actor's accent and line delivery. And he would even they would deliver the line and he'd be like, okay, your third line, make that 75% faster, like really precise that they had it on. But that's why their accents are different, is because, and he studied, it was so impressive to me. Like he'd studied, the
dialects.
Yeah, the dialects, the books. So here I have, for dialogue inspiration, Eggers, the Eggers brothers read the works of Herman Melville, Robert Louis Stevenson, and more, consulting 19th century slang and nautical dictionaries for concise jargon. Defoe's character is prone to articulate soliloquies in the style of Shakespeare and Milton. I actually really love Shakespeare, so this didn't bother me. I just wanted to put the pieces together. And for nautilistic dialogue, they turned to Sarah Owen Jewett, a Maine-based novelist. So they really dug into this to make sure that everything was accurate for the time and from where they were from into the story.
That's interesting and good to know, because I think this is one of the things that really bothered the shit out of me all the way through the movie, is Robert Pattinson's accent. I felt like it was bad. And I'm not like a worldly person, so I don't fucking know what, but I just felt like...
Tawny, you don't know what 18th century sailors spoke
Farm,
like?
Maine.
Yeah,
Farm, Pattinson was a farmer in Maine.
Yes, that's
Come
true.
on, Tawny.
Sorry, come on, Tawny. You should have picked that up, okay?
I respect the fact that was a very specific thing. Watching the movie, I was like, this is bad. He's doing a bad job. Like, and in general, like, I cannot take Robert Pattinson seriously. And so that sucks.
Because he was a sexy vampire with diamond skin?
Yeah.
Is that why?
And listen, I don't even like hate. I mean, the movies of Twilight were not great, but I read all the books. I'm here to tell you. Okay, I'm not ashamed. I read the books. I liked them.
I had some crushes on some vampires. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And I watched the movies, and they were not as good as the book, and they definitely had some fucking problems. But I felt like he was okay in that. But now I can't unsee him as that. You know what I mean? So I didn't like hate him in Twilight, but I just cannot take him seriously outside of that. And so this movie did not help, like, all the way through. I was like, this scene, I thought he was just doing a really bad accent. That's why I asked in the beginning, because I was like, am I going to say this? And he actually has like an Irish accent or something, and he's like just doing his normal voice, and I'm just going to sound like a fucking idiot. But I get that it's a very specific in it, but I just was like, I don't know. At some point, I was hoping at some point I would just forget and get lulled into the story and feel like he was being him. I don't know, but I couldn't all the way through. I didn't like it.
Dang. These were, for both Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, I thought, these are my favorite performances from each of these people.
Really? Willem Dafoe.
I know, Willem has a lot.
He was
and I just loved him. Yes, he was awesome.
He was probably one of my favorite parts. Like, I had like two main things that I really, really liked. One of them was Willem Dafoe, and I felt like he just did an amazing job. I loved his like performance and his accent. Like, he was so believable. And I think like Robert Pattinson next to him, you know, like maybe if somebody else had been in Willem Dafoe's role, like, it maybe wouldn't have been as bad. But I felt like the contrast was so like, it was so great that I just couldn't. You know what I mean?
Connect them.
Really? I thought I agree, sad. Justin. I thought they both blew me away. Yeah, I thought they both blew me away.
I also went into watching this movie going, Robert Pattinson, isn't he the sexy vampire? I don't know about this. And I bought in 100%. I loved it. I mean, the other thing is, I don't think you hear him talk very much.
No.
Until probably about 2/3 of the way in. He's like very limited verbally through most of the movie. So I got to experience him, you know, masturbating, peeping on Thomas Wake, humping his bed.
Yeah, also masturbating. Yeah.
Also watching another person masturbate. Also watching him masturbate up on top of the lighthouse.
The lighthouse, yes.
And then like touching the semen.
Yeah.
And then
I was like, bro, get away. You know what it is. I know what it is.
Yeah, I was like, no. And then when a whole bunch came down, I was like, what's going on?
He positioned his eyeball. I was like, what are you doing?
It was because he was like a squid, though. Octopus, that was the slime. I think it was both, right? But
yeah,
I mean, I think that was intended to be semen, but then it was also this octopus.
No,
dude.
I definitely got that too. I definitely got it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Anyway, I feel like Robert Pattinson was like, there's so many moments with him that he was so. For me, I was like, I felt so bad for him so much because Thomas Wake is so domineering, and he's like screaming at him to mop these floors again, you filthy dog. And Robert Pattinson's like, I already did. You're like, oh, poor guy. I liked him. I thought he was very good. I'm sorry he didn't.
I do have something about Pattinson here. Pattinson. Anyways, so every time he shot a scene in which his character is drunk, he was drunk. So he was saying he was basically unconscious the whole time.
Oh, shit.
And he says, it was crazy. I spent too much time making myself throw up, pissing my pants. It's the most revolting thing. And there's this whole thing here. So he had an unusual approach to psych himself up. And they talked about method acting. And Eggers was saying it's like next level. You can't just say it's method acting. It's like he just brought so much to it. And so he did a lot of unusual things to psych himself up before emotionally extreme scenes. Sometimes he'd beat himself in the face so bad, Or when it was raining through the cottage roof, Rob was drinking the rainwater in between takes. He also licked mud. He spun around in circles a lot. Or he'd stick his finger down his throat and make him gag, stuff like that. And there was a particular scene, if you remember, where they're up against the wall on the floor and they're both drunk and Defoe is laying in his lap.
Mm-hmm.
And during that particular scene, he actually, right before that, Pattison was sticking his fingers down his throat before the take, and he was completely unconscious, wasted. And Willem was saying, dude, if Rob fucking pukes on me, I'm out of here. Like,
yeah, I don't blame him.
And Rob didn't even know that this whole conversation was taking place. He was so wasted.
Oh my God.
He would purposely pee himself and stuff, just like to add to this, I don't know, uncomfortable, insane character that he was.
Oh man, that's horrible. One of my thoughts was, yes, this is like an extremely toxic place to be. But when they were drunk, it was the most fun I'd seen drunk people had in a long time. When they were dancing together, I was like, I want to do that. I want to sing songs and dance and be really drunk. It made me want to get drunk.
Yeah, the juxtaposition of the so frustrated with each other, and then they were like having such a great time, like them like dancing around and like singing together, and like I agree, it was so fun.
They're like, the holding each other, and then even the part where they're like kind of being adversarial and like screaming at each other, what, or whatever they were doing. I thought to me that is, I love that kind of being when I'm drunk. I love being like that. So when it was happening, I was like, oh man, I really would be great at this.
That's crazy that he was that drunk.
I didn't know that. That seems crazy, and it makes me.
That's a liability.
Like that. Yeah, I don't like that.
Bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of impressed though that he was still. No, I don't think that's like that. I could never do that, and it totally liability, all of that. But he was able to deliver all his lines. Like I would have been useless. I know,
that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, like useless. How can you, especially such a very specific dialect of and you're totally wasted and able to. I mean, on my side of things, maybe that's why it wasn't delivered so well. But I don't think that was it, honestly. I do think it was because I did feel like this feels like an American trying to do some sort of English accent. But that makes sense because he was from Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
But he's an Englishman giving a Maine accent from the 18th century.
Right. So maybe it was good, but it just felt bad to watch.
Yeah.
Those two also never spent any time together.
What?
Until they just, on set, they ate separately. They isolated themselves, and then they would come together, and then they would go apart. Like Willem Dafoe stayed in a tiny fisherman cottage, and then Rob stayed at a hotel. And then when they ate apart. They did not interact with each other until they came together and then did
I guess that makes sense because they are apart in the context of the movie. Like Willem works overnights, right? And then yeah. And now I've taken to their actual acting names, but Ephraim works over the daytime, and so they're kind of opposites, but they sit down and eat together. It's like the one time that they seem to come together.
Yeah, the communal table.
Yeah. Interesting.
Watching it I got to watch it in a theater 2 years ago. So then when I watched it, I was very involved viscerally in that experience. When he did the hark thing and was giving the sound in that room, it felt like it somehow was like coming from him. It was very powerful. And I remember thinking while he was doing it, I was like, this is amazing. And I go, before it even ended, I go, I don't know what he's saying, but I have to memorize this. I remember thinking that, like, this is amazing that this guy, and they just pulled it off. And then when I watched it again on the small screen, it didn't have that, watching it on a television doesn't have the same kind of, maybe it was the sound also, I don't have a very good sound system or anything. So
you were like, I am going to find a dinner that I can do this at. I will memorize this and I will do this.
I don't know if we don't have this in the podcast, but my daughter Fran, 6, is notorious for rejecting the food that we make her for dinner. And I showed her this speech by Willem Dafoe. And I told her she didn't know what was going on, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, this guy is very upset with this other guy not liking the way he cooks lobster.
Yeah.
And I prefaced it with that before it started. And later we did a little thing where I was like, Fran, tell me you like my cooking. And she goes, I ain't saying nothing.
You've incorporated this movie into your life with your daughter. This is amazing.
I know, because I love that part. So I mean, like, that was such a very good, fun part. And Fran loved it too. She loved going, I ain't saying nothing.
That is so amazing.
I remember too, this is the other thing that I couldn't help but catch when you were talking about this movie with Alex. Like the lobster. I remember you joking about this part. And so when I got there, I thought it was going to be really funny. But for me, it wasn't. It wasn't comedic, but in a good way. Like, I don't, Felicia and I think are both, like, we prefer, like, true scary. And I think this moment is, like, I read it as less comedic and more, like, sad. Yeah, kind of. He's having a very vulnerable moment. And it wasn't funny until the moment where there was the shot behind him where he says, all right, I have it your way. I like your cooking. Like, that part was funny to me. I was like, okay.
Yeah. I have to say that I agree. When he started to lose his temper, I thought, whoa, wait a second. Is he really this mad? Because I got a little confused. Like, I was like, why is he so mad? This is silly, but I think I was trying to read it as serious, but I thought it was silly. And so I didn't go, because this was meant to be silly until Ephraim says, all right. And then I chuckled.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things I liked were the two moments where there was this, like, what the fuck is happening in terms of time or like whatever. And again, I'm watching this movie from a very shallow perspective, right? Like, all of what we just talked about will set aside for Tawny's first viewing, right? Like, I'm like, okay, this guy cannot keep track of time. Like, something crazy's happened. He's probably been drinking since we got there. Like, I kind of got the impression first watch that the night before he's supposed to leave, that's his first drink, right? Because he's like, all right, I'll toast you and I'll drink. But then, like, the next day or a couple days later, he's like, I've been telling you to ration for like weeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then now you're finally on board with rationing. He's like, it was just yesterday that the people were supposed to show up. So that's the first moment that I really like, because I love, like, a what the fuck moment. Like, what has happened? And then the second is the part with the boat where he's like, you just destroyed the boat. And you're like, no, I just watched you destroy the boat. So I love the movie from that perspective, but I felt like there wasn't enough of that for me. So going back to what you're saying, Felicia, like, I was confused at the end of the movie, but I love a good, like, fucking fever dream type situation where you're like, what the hell is going on? What's real? What's fake? I don't know. But I feel like I've watched this better executed. We watched a movie, and it's not coming to mind right now, Felicia, but we watched a movie where, it was Jacob's Ladder. It was Jacob's Ladder, where I was like, Jesus Christ, this is the best example I think I've ever seen of, like, what's up and down. Like, I don't know what's real or fake or what. I just feel like I've seen it better done. So I had a hard time because there were just those two moments where I questioned what is happening. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had the same experience. I was like, oh, they're the same person. Oh, and I'm going with it. And I'm like, oh, no, wait, no, maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. Oh, yeah, no. Maybe that's not the point. I really like that you sent us that script because I wasn't able to read it all, but I looked at some really main things that I wanted to see. And, like, I didn't realize, I reread the whole ending that he was, like, his hands were burning. He was grabbing the light and they were burning and he was in pain. I didn't realize that. But it didn't give anything away of exactly, like, what that was supposed to mean or what it was as far as the light. But I thought that was interesting.
Did you read through the whole thing, Justin?
Yeah, I wrote down the things that when I read them, I was like, oh, that's interesting because it's different than the book. One of them is like after he kills the gull. In the movie, he kills the gull and then he like comes in and he's kind of like feeling guilty about it. And Thomas Wake says something to him like, hey, get to your duties, or I forget what it was. In the script, he kills the bird. Then he comes in, he says, hey, someone left that cistern open or something like that. And he started to talk to Wake right when he comes in, but Wake is crying.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's different, you know? And then they also took out a part that I thought was where it's before the moment where they actually start to strangle each other. And he says, it's where he's like, if ye best me, then if ye break, I win. If I break, I win. And so he's like, Wake is like telling him, I am it goes on to talk about, and them's the rules of nature, them's truth. I am truth. I make the truth as I see fit. Me, I make it as I demand it. And the truth is that you're nothing, Tommy, Tom. I'm nothing. Anyway, like when I read that, I was like, oh, it kind of changes it. Also, like it does seem as though Wake is the truth. That's why he has all the power. He can say, you're drunk at work. I'm in charge of the light, and you're not going to get any money, and you broke the boat. And like him having that level of, that might be why they took it out, is it kind of more roots you in the fact that Old is in control psychologically. And anyway, I like that.
That though, but based on what you're saying there, and I did like that shift of how he is the one in control, and then that shifts throughout to where now Ephraim, whatever, he is in control so much so that now Defoe is being let out like a dog, groveling at his feet. And I liked that shift.
Also, I liked when Willem Dafoe barked like a dog.
It was
made me laugh.
Weird.
It was very realistic.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, also, when they were burying him alive, that dirt was going in his mouth.
And he's chewing it.
He's chewing it. And I thought, this is awesome.
Dude,
I've never seen something. Yeah, like, I'm going to keep giving this this dialogue about protean forms in the mind of man or whatever, while he's like destroyed and just halfway cut. I've never seen someone that close to being buried alive,
Yeah, and he did not stop. I jotted that down too. That was just like amazing. I did read something where your favorite scene where you're the thing you say at dinner now, when he stands up and gives that whole hark statement, that was all one take, and he didn't blink for 2 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know. That just really impressed me.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
No, I believe it. His eyes were.
Yeah, they were, and he just for 2 minutes straight, that whole thing that he said. What else do you have there? Sorry, in your script.
Oh,
I interrupted you. Yeah.
Those were my main two ones that I thought, I was like, those do change a little bit how I look at Wake. And I think those are the only ones that were where I thought, it's probably good that they took him out though. But I did kind of want to see Wake crying.
Yeah. And in relation to that, as though he knew already what was to come.
Yeah.
That somehow he knew who that gull was. They knew that gull died. And he's like emotional about it. Like,
interesting.
My friend died.
Or if we're talking about the same person, is it two parts of his personality? Oh, yeah. The fear, the sadness for what he did, and trying to cover it up. I did want to add a piece here that I didn't know where to put it, but another inspiration for this movie was a true story. Small lighthouse strategy. Strategy. It was not a strategy. The small lighthouse tragedy. Two Welshmen that were on. But this, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. First of all, I would never, ever, ever want this job that these people have. But it was literally just a rock in the middle of the ocean. It's not even like it's just a rock with the lighthouse in the real story. But anyways, two men, and they were both named Thomas. Happened to be both named Thomas. I just thought that was interesting. Mm-hmm. And one of they always fought and didn't get along. One of the Thomases died, not a murder, but had died from circumstances. And the other Thomas didn't know what to do, had a whole bunch of time left on this lighthouse, but didn't know what to do because if he tossed the body in the ocean, people would think that he was a murderer. So he built a coffin and he strapped it to the outside, but then there was like this storm and the body was flailing about. Well, the one alive Thomas, when he finally returned home, he was just like a completely different, lost his mind, a completely different person because of all of this. And then there's this whole thing around it where boats swear that they saw someone waving, but it really was the body that was being blown around and like all of this stuff. But I just wanted to share that with all of you. It's the small lighthouse tragedy. If you want to look more into it, pretty much gave you all the details, but but they were both named Thomas.
Yeah. I there was one other note I thought that they said was like, because I also read about it, that after that they changed the rules.
Yes.
For like
3 people.
Like workers' rights kind of a thing. Like you can't just put people on an island like that.
Oh, interesting. Like a 1v1 situation.
Yeah, they stopped that.
They made it, and they made it for like, I think they first transitioned to having 3 people. Uh-huh. So there was always 3 people at the lighthouse, just in case. And then,
Interesting. That's probably good. I don't know if it would actually change the dynamic. Like, I think I like this idea of like 2 people in a situation panicked, right? Or worried. Because I think there's like an adversarial, but I don't know that changes if you add a 3rd person in. There's still an adversarial relationship. Are you 2 against me?
Me.
Does it make it worse, you know?
Yeah, I think it was more that someone's not alone, totally isolated.
Oh, if one person.
Yeah, so even if you have that person you don't like, there's still somebody else there that can help with the work, help with decision making, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Versus just you have no way to, not back then. Don't have cell phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a really small thing that the director, Robert Eggers, stated that the scene where Robert Pattinson's character gets excrement all over his face was inspired by The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, I see that. I feel like the humor, like then he had that whole thing with the mermaid. I think that was right after. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that Thomas Wake says to him when he comes inside, he's like,
"You smell like shit."
Yeah, you're like, "Oh yeah, you have poop on your face." That's right. Oh God. And the shot of those bedpans.
Yeah, it's bad.
God.
And then it's all over him.
Yeah.
I would have just jumped right in the ocean.
There was one other thing in the script. Yeah. I end it all. Yeah.
I'm done. This is it.
Yeah.
Take me, ocean. I'm done.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had
enough is like enough. Enough is enough. Can I tell you this?
I would have at least cried.
Yeah. Oh no, but closed mouth cry, dude. I'm done. I'm done. Gross. Yeah. I did. The next scene, he was walking and it was pouring rain. I was like, oh, thank God.
Thank God.
It's just like, thank God it's raining all over you. Take off that hat, man. Like,
let it cleanse you.
Nasty. I did want to share something with you about something I learned about mermaids. Okay. because I found this very interesting, and Tawny will know why, because I'm all into this type of stuff with women's bodies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the mermaid on the Starbucks. So this is what Egger said. The design of the mermaid's genitals was based on shark labia and was constructed entirely out of silicone. And Robert Eggers on the backstory, the mermaid on the Starbucks coffee cup has two tails based on an early mermaid design. So if you think about it, she has two tails coming up. Medieval and Renaissance mermaids were always split so that these anima figures of male fantasy could perform their role that they had been unfairly thrust upon them by their male imagineers, right? How do I have sex with this this mermaid? Let's split their tails. And so that's what they did. But with no surprise that in the Victorian era, they closed the mermaid up and made them impenetrable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't get in there. So that the single tail mermaid silhouette has become the archetypal mermaid look for people today, and also what a mermaid would have looked like in the period of the movie. Because at that time they had locked those babies up. Thank you very much. I'm just kidding. But still, they needed to figure out how mermaids can copulate so that they could create this scene. And so they studied shark genitals.
Very interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah, especially that I'm very interested that shark genitals look so very closely like human.
I now want to
right?
look up what a shark penis looks like.
I mean, they had to have split the difference, right? Like,
you want to see a shark penis? Yes, I do.
I'm going to do some incognito searches right now.
Yes.
They had to have been like shark genitals. Human female genitals.
And then
what's the difference? Yeah. In the middle. Yeah.
Because if I see in the shark that looks just like that, I'm curious. Because usually when I'm watching like these like whales and stuff like that, they're kind of just swimming by each other, right? There, you don't see like, sex like, other animals, humans.
Yeah, now I got questions. That can only be solved by documentaries.
Yes.
Like, do sharks swim upside down or something? Like, what's going on?
Right. What is happening?
I'm pretty sure they only have one fin. So.
Well, no, they have the two ones on the side, don't they?
I don't.
Oh, what I mean is like they don't have the two tails.
Oh, gotcha.
So
okay, I understand.
I can draw you a picture later. And then actually, you know what? Where's Fran? I'll have Fran redraw this one for you to be more anatomically correct.
Oh, it's funny.
That's very interesting. So you think they went in the Victorian era? They said, women can't have sex. That's fucking disgusting. Let's close up these two legs, fins. Is that what the thought was?
Oh, I don't know about when I had read that. I thought more of just like, you fucking dirty bastards. Stop having sex with these mermaids. Close up their tail.
I went the
make
opposite
these
way.
Mythical creatures more. I guess that could be because they were first created more for like in the idea of how could a man have sex with this fish woman. And so now in the Victorian era, no more of that. Now it's become like children's books and things like that, and more of a mythical creature that does not have a big gaping genitals for men, right? But that could be, button up the mermaid, just like all the women were buttoned up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not allowed.
Not allowed here.
It's not appropriate for public.
Because the men mermaids still have their two tails, don't they?
Oh, really?
Do they? Okay.
I think so.
Oh, this is interesting.
Ooh.
I've seen a lot of my mind is going places.
Like
my mind is going
Poseidon
places.
and stuff.
I didn't realize
with two tails.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. I have so many mer people questions. Well,
I am gonna do some research after this.
I have this little piece that I really liked how it was described, but Robert Eggers on the film's music. So I was looking for an alloteric score with nods to ancient Greece Greek music. I wanted to de-emphasize strings and instead focus on glass and instruments you can blow into, including horns and pipes. It needed to sound like the sea, but I realized that we needed elements that would also harken back to an old movie score, and so there's a nod to Bernard Herrmann. I just am so impressed and love just all of this thought put into it. And when I heard that sounds like the sea and the blown glass and, not strings, but horns. And I was just like, I love that. So I wanted to share.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is what maybe why I also walked away going, I've never seen a movie like this. Because there were so many a lot of decisions were being consciously made through steps that maybe that hadn't happened in the past. And even like, I think, whatever you think of the aspect ratio, but at least like they were even using lenses that were like 100 years old. That's commitment.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they said that automatically helped it look like it was 100 years old.
Yeah.
Like
I thought like they must have put a fucking filter on this through the whole movie, and like how exhausting would that be to make sure everything looks the same all the way through the movie? But that makes so much more sense in terms of consistency.
Yeah. Yeah. They made a lot of choices to help it feel this way and look this way and sound this way. So, I mean, I didn't know that about the music. That's cool.
Ooh, let me tell you this about the lighting, because this was something I thought was really interesting too. So Eggers was saying prefers the bounce light. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Okay, so in a nutshell, sorry, I don't understand this stuff. You guys are probably like, oh yeah, I get it. Felicia, keep going. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm saying. It sounds like math. But essentially they needed a lot of light, but they wanted it to be very, very dark. But for the film, I guess, for the film exposure, they needed more light. And so by the time it gets in a window, it's gradually reduced. So lighting the interior required a tremendous amount of light as it got darker. It required a tremendous amount of light. And so it was a challenge because black and white takes so much more light. Even if it's a scene with a single kerosene lamp, the light bulb that it's pretending to be the flame of the lamp was so blindingly bright that oftentimes people like the people that were making the movie had to wear sunglasses on set while they were shooting the interior. So the reason I wanted to bring that up, and I just butchered it, but hopefully anyone who understands film like you two understands what I'm saying. There's so many, and they have a picture here, so many beautiful, especially around the table where it's black, where there's this light. And it's hard for me to realize that the set was actually blindingly bright with this light when it comes out so incredibly dark. That's really what I was trying to get out.
Yeah, I always thought this would be a strange experience to be like on set and you see what happens, the performances and stuff. There's color, but also apparently it's probably as bright as anything you've ever seen. And then you go watch the movie and you're like, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've thought that with things that are really digital and green screen and stuff like that. Like, say you're in a Jurassic Park movie and you're like, whoa, look at that.
I will say, I complained about this very early. Like, I'm not a fan of black and white because I feel like it's a cop-out. It's like, in the time that I've seen it, it's usually just that I feel like it's just gimmicky. I feel like this is the one time, maybe the second time, because I think we watched something else that was black and white, and I was like, it was the bad seed. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is fine. Totally cool with me. But this one is the second time I was like, I don't hate this because it feels artfully done. Like the light, I was like, there has got to be something happening here lighting wise because it's so difficult to light in a way that feels like this, even when you desaturate. Even if they shot it in color, desaturating, like they had to plan for this.
Yeah, it was very high contrast feel too. But also you could still see little details all over the place.
The value, you could still see the value without it being just black and white. Like it wasn't just super high contrast. It was super super well done. And the placement of the lights, I kept thinking, were like, man, it feels so natural.
Yeah. There was a lot of butt in this movie.
Yeah, a lot of butts. Yeah.
So much butt.
This scene, because you talked about butt, and this is going to sound weird when I say it, but I'm just going to say it. I thought it was so beautifully shot when Ephraim is masturbating and so it's just this in the shack, and it's this square, the rain, his body was just like beautiful. It was all just the way it was, positioned and shaped, and the colors, no color, but like all the and masturbating and to the. Trying so hard with this mermaid, this whole thing, I just loved it.
Very good. And one of the things Egger said is they actually wrote in the initial one of the scripts, he was wearing all the clothes of Thomas Wake when he was doing that. Like he was wearing, and they said, "Oh, that's just too much."
Oh, okay.
And I was like, "Really? That was too much? that was too much? That's the part." Yeah.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't noticed.
And also the way that ended also made me laugh, where he's like, "Ah!"
Yes.
But it was like, who does that? Who makes that noise from like failing to escape? Ah!
Well, maybe when you're out there, and we don't. It's been a long time. He's not been able to escape, and he thought he was just right there.
He was so close.
Yeah.
When he just kept thinking of those corpses.
So unfortunate. Yeah.
And slithering tentacles. And butts. Yeah.
Lots of butts.
I'm trying to think. Are there any other butts? There's the shack butts. There's the peeking through butts. There's Willem Dafoe's butt at least 2 different times. Like once when he's up on the top of the lamp, and then later when he's like doing the I-beam thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah, lots of butts.
I really liked that scene when he's up on the lighthouse and the shadow when they show Robert Pattinson like staring up at the light, and you see the shadow behind him before you see the light hit him, just because of the time delay. Like I don't know, I thought that was really interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, are we ready to rate this?
I think we're finally ready.
We're finally ready.
3 bags of popcorn.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
All right. Who wants to go first?
Justin, you go first.
No, I go last.
Oh, okay. All right.
Do you want me to go first?
I want to know where I stand in relation to yours.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I am going to give this a 3. And looking at the different things, I admitted that I got a little bored a few times in different spots. And so this is really hard. I say this all the time. Oh, this is so hard, but I feel like I have valid reasons why it's hard. I was so in love with the way it looked and the acting, and I wanted to be piecing these different things together. But then on the flip side, I didn't fully piece it together, which I guess we're not supposed to. And I got a little bit bored. But so there's these 2 very, different ends of the spectrum. And so for just how beautiful it was beautifully acted. I feel like I do like the themes, and I'm getting somewhere I'm not ever going to understand it, but I like the way it makes me think. So I'm going to give it a 3. That's
awesome.
Me.
Do you guys hear that thunder? Very ominous. You should have rated it higher.
Oh no. I did not kill any seagulls.
Wow.
You up, Tawny?
Okay, I'll go next. I was also thinking a 3, but I gave Martyrs a 3, and I think I like this less than that. But I like it more than my 2.75s. Like I gave I Know What You Did Last Summer a 2.75, and I definitely liked this more than that. But I also gave Slither a 2.9, which really gave me pause, because I think I liked this more than I did Slither. So I'm going to go with a new score for me, a 2.95.
So Justin, awesome. In case you haven't heard, like I wanted to introduce these decimal points, and she was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Felicia!" But now she's utilizing them, and it makes me happy.
Yeah, it just seems like you rated Martyr too low. Then
I rated Martyrs a 5.
Or you rated those other ones too high.
I think I rated those others too high. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just because is my score
Yes.
Do you guys do a summation and an average?
Yeah.
We don't do an average. Oh, yeah, we do actually on Letterboxd. I do. Yeah.
Okay, so I want this to be above a 3.
Do it. Whatever's in your heart.
Yeah, go with your heart. We love it.
Because I actually have no way of comparing it to anything else. And like I said, I incorporated this into my life.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 3.5.
I don't feel like that's high enough.
I thought you were going to go way higher than that. I did.
Oh, I was going to say, what's a 3.5 in your guys' book?
For me, It Follows was a 3.5 in Teton.
Oh, that's fair.
And Teton was a 3.5. How about you, Tawny?
Okay, I'll stick with 3.5.
I gave the newest Wrong Turn from 2021 a 3.5. Didn't love that. A Spiral, I gave 3.5. And Wicker Man, the original.
Oh, I love that.
But I really liked that more than I thought.
It was so fun.
So I'm going to stick with, I think 3.5 is good then.
I feel like you liked it more than a 3.5.
Okay, I'm going to give it a 3.7.
Okay.
Well, you got it above a 3.5 or 3.7. Still has an average of 3.2. Yeah. 3.2.
The thing is, I did like, I think It Follows. That was a movie that actually scared me. And I had to be like, can't watch this. I had to get to the end, and then I could watch it again, knowing how it ended. Anyway, different movie, not reviewing it. So 3.7.
3.7.
Okay. All right.
Nice. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And Justin, gosh, this was fun. I loved meeting you. Thank you, Tawny, for asking Justin to come on. And Justin, thank you so much for coming on. It was so much fun.
Thanks for having me. It is fun.
I hope that you come on again.
Yeah, if there's another movie that Tawny thinks I'll like. Yeah. Or that I hate.
Ooh, that's a fun discussion.
I haven't been able to hate a movie publicly in a while.
I'm sure we could find one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun discussion too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Either end.
Actually, I don't actually hate that many movies, so it's hard for me. You guys are like, it's barely a 3. I'm like, 3.7.
I know, that's right.
I mean,
I love this movie. I've incorporated it into my life. I'm going to give it 0.5 more points than you did.
I know. I thought for sure we were going like 4 to 5 range.
Oh, okay.
For you.
No, I do.
Okay.
No, because I do. I mean, yeah. I didn't want to say the thing, like focus on the negative. I focused on the positive.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we are going to have on the horror bandwagon. Super excited. We're going to be talking about the movie Unfriended.
Yes.
So definitely check that out. We're very excited about that. Also, you can find us on Instagram or our website, Instagram at 2 Chicks and a Horror Flick or 2chicksandhorrorflick.com. You guys already know it. I'm forgetting. From both of those places, you can go anywhere else. Any other, you could get links to the episodes. You can go to any other social platform. You could buy merch not or, do them all. You can join us on our horror community Discord channel where we chat with people and it's super fun. What else, Tawny?
You can support the show by going to our Patreon or giving us a like, review, and subscribe on whatever podcatcher you're listening to us on. That would be super helpful. But that's it. So thank you again, Justin, for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yay!
Ladies.
And we will see you next week. And we hope you have such a good night. No nightmares.